what you think of as yourself is only a small portion of what your brain is. And there's actually a very basic framework that you can use to visualize how the brain works.
Okay.
And it's kind of like an onion. Okay. So your brain is built, layer over layer, and the core, down, think of it like the middle of the onion, is a structure that's called the hindbrain.
Okay.
And the hindbrain deals with all of the stuff that actually keeps you alive, keeps your heart beating, keeps you breathing, keeps all of those autonomic processes functioning. Okay, really important. Without it, we wouldn't live. And the animals all over the place. Sometimes they call this the lizard brain.
Yeah.
It's all animals, including lizard. Up to and back to lizards have this part of the brain. It's what keeps us alive.
Cool.
Now, over top of that is a structure called the midbrain. And the midbrain is responsible for our perception. It's responsible for our emotion. It's responsible for mental simulation, which we'll talk about here in a bit, of actually predicting based on what's going on in our environment, what's going to happen next.
Okay.
All of those functions, and that's actually most of the gray matter of the brain. It's responsible for making those types of relationships and storing them in memory. Okay. Now, over top of that is, a thin little structure. It's relatively new developmentally speaking, and that's called the forebrain. And the forebrain is largely responsible for language and logic and processing.
Makes sense.
And all of those things that we think of that make us distinctly human in our capabilities. Now, that's important because so often, we're going throughout the day and, we hear, little thoughts in our head about, oh, I should do this. I need to remember to do this. Oh, that was stupid. This constant radio chatter in our mind is actually, it isn't being produced by us or the part of the brain we think is us. It may speak in our voice, but it's not us. That's basically just your midbrain throwing out all of these patterns or all of these associations. It's just radio chatter.
Interesting.
And the thing is, that's what our midbrain's designed to do. But so many people assume the radio chatter that's going on up in our head is us, and we start to identify it and feel really bad about it because it may not always be the most pleasant stuff. And so this is a concept that's called the watcher. And this is actually something that comes from Eastern philosophy and yoga and meditation and all of these things. You are not the radio chatter in your head. The radio chatter is just trying to provide you information that your brain thinks is important for you to know. You are actually the person who is a little bit apart from that, and you're watching all of this happen. And you can decide what's important and what's not, and what you should pay attention to and what's superfluous. And the more you can dissociate that radio chatter in your head from you, the more you can actually look at that as information and say, okay, this is important. I should really pay attention to this. And, send a message received signal to that part of your brain. Or, this is not important, but you also recognize that, that's something your brain's trying to tell you. And you also send a message received type of signal. So it's really good because so many times we have so many things that are going on. And we start to feel crazy because that radio chatter can be, so loud sometimes that it just overwhelms, our sense of trying to control ourselves. And I know you trained in this quite a bit when you were in your yoga certification.
Absolutely. I think that understanding it from a physiological level is really important for us in terms of finding some patience with ourselves, but actually trying a little bit of meditation, even 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes twice a week, I think it's really, really important because then you actually start to feel that distance and feel the difference between, okay, this is me, and these are the thoughts kind of floating by, and noticing that you don't have to identify with every one of them. You can just kind of let it go. And I know it sounds a little weird and wonky and new age, but even doing it for a couple minutes lets you start to kind of feel the choices that you actually have to make, and that you don't have to follow every single tiny little thing that your brain suggests to you, which is really, really, really important when you're trying to actually work on a project. So maybe we'll put a link up with this video with some meditation stuff if you're new to it, because it's really important stuff.
And meditation is not anything mystical. No. It's not anything fancy.
It's really just sitting.
Yeah, you sit down and you breathe, which you kind of have to do anyway. And you just watch the thoughts come and go.
Yeah.
So it's kind of practicing being the watcher instead of, identifying with this, the radio chatter in your head. And that gives you a certain amount of distance and a certain amount of calm that can help you make better decisions. So that's the watcher.